Okay. I'm going to open the Tuesday, May 13th meeting of the Middleton Plan Commission. You want to do roll call, Abby?
Sure. Bruce,
Here.
Paniro,
Here.
Shaw,
Here.
Summers,
Here.
and Chair Sonnentag is present. Adams and Paulson are absent and excused.
Okay. Approval of minutes. I haven't heard of anybody making any changes or additions or deletions, so I'll call the minutes approved. Let's see. So let's go to item 1 on the agenda, which is the revised site plan review for 6300 University Avenue for the 2 loading areas. You want to talk, Mark or
Daphne.
Daphne, okay.
Yeah, sure. So this was approved by Plan Commission last year, but they added these 2 loading areas off of University Avenue. And then they had to get a TIA done for it, and the TIA is passed, and it did go past Public Works Committee as well. But since it does cover, almost like a fourth of the building in the front, we wanted it to come back to Plan Commission for your review as well. Also in our ordinance, we don't allow loading areas I believe it's in the front setback. And because of our University Avenue corridor plan, we oriented this so that the front was facing University Avenue. However, because of zoning, we would typically consider the side along Gateway Street the front. So we just wanted to flag this for you guys and get you guys to, see if you would agree to the loading area as on this side of University Avenue. And then I was speaking with Connor Net, and I believe Eric is here as well from Forward Development Group, and he mentioned that they have the loading area for the residential side off of this driveway because it goes into their underground parking lot. However, the trash and recycling for the commercial aspect, because it doesn't have that direct access to the underground, it would be better from University Avenue. Also, there's more grade change along Gateway than along University Avenue, so they thought this would make the most sense, at least for the commercial space. And then the loading area, is also for, residents when they're moving in and stuff like that. They can park there, unload everything to get into the building.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Is there, was that a requirement of our zoning code, the loading zones, or was it part of the TIA?
It's not a requirement to have a loading zone, but just while they were designing the building, they realized, they're gonna have, a lot of people moving into this building, and it would be better to have a space for unloading and loading. Also, because this building has that drive-through component to it, it makes it a little more difficult to have it on the in their first floor parking area.
Right.
Give me a second, I'll pull that up as well.
Are both of them necessary?
I guess that's a question for Eric. Yeah, if you want to come up here.
I think the main intent is so a truck could, turn in, back out.
Okay. My only concern is that, we are paving a good chunk of that front yard along University Avenue, and I think we worked hard with the University Avenue plan to try to get some, keep parking out of the front yard, keep, landscaping there. I noticed that you've got a paved patio area in front of the commercial area. Could you treat the pavement for the loading zone similarly to the pavement on the patio, so that when it's not in use, visually it would appear more like patio space and less like asphalt driveway or something?
So it's currently permeable pavers,
I see.
and then there's landscaping around it as well. That's how
Permeable,
we,
I see.
permeable pavers for the buildings.
Okay.
Eric, what's your last name for the minutes?
Hoogerland. Do you want me to spell it?
Yes.
It's HOOGERLAND.
Thank you.
Like it sounds. Is a permeable have grass growing out of it? Is that what that is? Or
It's not
just-
the intent, no. It's supposed to be pretty architectural, that's why
Jeez.
we're the permeable pavers as opposed to asphalt or concrete.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else make a motion?
And I would just want to make one comment if I may.
Sure.
This project actually brought to light a fix that we are proposing in the zoning ordinance so that, yes, as Daphne mentioned, the front is the shorter frontage, but along University Avenue, it's more appropriate to consider the front along University. So that is one of the changes embedded in the zoning ordinance that we're proposing.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the changes to the site plan as presented.
Summers will second.
contingent on,
Contingent on staff comments. A through
A
E.
through E.
A through E is in the memo.
Aaron, you second? Okay.
And for the minutes, I'm numbering them as 1 through 5.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, item 2 is the site plan review for the Gateway Community Church. Who has that?
I also have that.
Okay,
And so this is just, this Gateway Community Church is right next to Northside Elementary School. They are proposing, an addition, I believe it was like 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. So almost doubling the size of their building. However, they're, most of the impervious was basically already there. And so they're, and then they're also reworking some of their parking lot. So, we recommend approval with, there's also a list of contingencies there, but I did want to make note that contingency number 6, for the mechanical equipment, the standards for that was mostly, requiring screening for any mechanical equipment that they're adding. And since it wasn't in the plans, they had sent the plans, earlier today, and I looked at them and, where they've placed it doesn't require any screening. Also, since the building is further away from High Road, so it's not visible from the street in any way. So you will not, I'm just recommending that we remove contingency number 6 from the approval.
okay, is there a motion?
Can we see the staff reports?
Did you want the staff report or just the?
I'm sorry, this, the summary here.
Okay.
So you're removing contingency number 6,
Yes.
recommendation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan with the contingencies 1 through 5, 7 and 8.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Good to have you, Chad.
And if he wasn't here, we'd have questions.
Mhm.
Well, now we can say we got to get through this meeting by 8:30, so. All right, item 3 is the specific implementation plan modification for the building addition for Quick Trip on Century Avenue.
This one's very straightforward, so it should be a quick trip. 443 square foot addition on an area that's largely impervious already, at least functioning as impervious. No change in building capacity. So I'm recommending approval, contingent on resolution of engineering staff comments as indicated on the plan set.
Okay,
I'll make a motion
Th-
that,
This is Haniro. I'll move approval as a minor SIP modification contingent on resolution of engineering staff comments indicated on the plan set.
I'll
second.
second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That gets us to item 4, which is the revisions to a zoning ordinance, chapter 10 of the municipal code.
This is a longer trip.
This is a longer trip, okay. Does anybody want to discuss the proposed revisions? Since no action is necessary at this meeting?
Mark,
So, anything you want to get off your chest?
can you just explain? It looks like, the front facade is still the basis for the height, but there could be, if the site sloped up towards the back, that you could have the same height at the back with a step in the roof. Is that how I
So,
understand it?
as I mentioned in the memo, actually, maybe I wasn't completely clear about that in the memo, but, there it is. The language is based on what I looked at the cities around us. And we did not previously measure building height under this code. It was not related to the front of the property. It was all sides. So that is the first feature of this new definition that I'm proposing. So it's in relation to the front facade. If you have if it's a mixed use building, the property owner can get a credit of up to 6 feet, which should address one of the public comments that we heard at the last meeting from a local developer. So let's take an example of a building that's allowed to be 60 feet, and that's measured at the front lot at the setback line, the average of the elevations at the average above established grade, left and right, 60 feet, and then they're allowed and up to 6 feet. So it's called a 66-foot building. As that building goes to the back, to the rear, if the land falls away, that the height measured at the back can't be more than 15% taller from the established grade to the top compared to the front elevation. And for that matter, any side elevation can't be more than 15% taller, higher. That 15% is a number used in Madison's ordinance. So there's a lot of, I'm glad that we've had this discussion, because I think it's helped us look at all the issues and concerns that have been raised, and latching onto features of other ordinances used in the area, I think is helpful. To answer your question specifically about if it's taller in the back, is that what you're getting at? So if the
Right,
building-
right. If the site slopes uphill
So
from front to back.
theoretically, there would be, you'd measure the height at on each elevation as it relates to the front, but it could not be more than 15% taller than the front facade. Did I answer that right? Yeah, that's how I would read that.
But your example, I think, is for a site that's sloping down from front to back, and he's asking about a site that slopes up from front to back.
Right. So,
Could it be 60 feet in height as well
at the back, you mean?
at the back?
Along the front facade. I'm just looking to see if there's anything that would contradict the ability to interpret it that way, and I don't see anything. So I would say that it could step up. No, actually, wait a minute. I'm sorry. It's been a while since this was 2 weeks ago I did this. No, I would say the answer is it can't go up because of the rule that the building can't be higher than 60 feet at the front. So therefore it can't. Because otherwise you
This
could.
is
Yeah.
Haniro. It sounds to me like maybe the reference to the 15% higher than the maximum height at the end of that sentence or paragraph, maybe it should be referring to the front. Because it does sound like it's saying, I mean, I would interpret it as saying the front can be 60 plus, later we add more, but let's say it's 60 in the front, and the back can be 60 from the established grade. Or we need to clarify that we're talking, because we're saying building height, and then we use the term maximum height. So if the building height is measured only from the front, and the sides and back can't be more than 15% higher than the maximum height, that does sound like it's allowing those sides to be higher than the 66. Yeah.
Based on the principle of the established grade being measured on each side of the four facades, yes, the limiting factor for going into a site, for example, on the Vern site, since we're using specific examples, but not talking about specific projects per se, but we would be looking at the established grade in relation to each facade, so in that case, you could, in theory, have the step up provision because the side, as it climbs, as long as that doesn't ever get more than 15% of the maximum height allowed at the front. So that, I would agree, I didn't answer it proper, or I gave a garbled answer before, but I think there's a way to provide for that under this definition that's very defensible as long as it's not more than a 15% increase. The limiting factor would be that there would be automatically have to be a step back at the top because otherwise it would be too tall at the front. So let's take a Middleton Center building, for example, and that is a 15-foot step back. If you measure that from the side, you would immediately, there would be a check and balance there for that, because the side measurement in Middleton Center, for example, would be there's no topography there.
Yeah, but.
So, so in thinking about this, I think it's actually a pretty adaptable definition. I'm sorry for giving a garbled answer, but yeah, I think it's the cap is the 15%, and but at the front, it would never appear higher than the maximum allowed by the zoning district. And we have some graphics that Daphne put together very quickly following the last meeting. And that was before we decided, or before I did some additional research and thinking about this and decided to shift to this focus. So the graphics that Daphne prepared are based on the definition we were working through last time. We could bring those to your for your review, or have them at the meeting for the hearing if you'd like.
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I didn't include those.
We run any of this by any of the developers?
We have had feedback from one developer who asked questions about it and didn't indicate any concern, but that's why we'll have the hearing in 2 weeks, is to see what they think.
Okay. Any other? Nothing else? Okay.
I do have a comment, and actually thanks to the staff for making the changes that we discussed last time. They're reflected in the memo. I really appreciate that. I hope in the next update to the zoning code, we can include some overlay districts, like a transit-oriented development overlay. And I also wanted to acknowledge comments that showed up in the minutes. Someone spoke at the hearing last time regarding parking requirements for ADUs. And I just wanted to acknowledge that I heard the comment about reconsidering parking requirements for ADUs. We don't require parking, and I think it is the right thing to do to not require the parking. The Workforce Housing Committee and CDA have started working on our strategy for affordable housing in Middleton, and in reading through a bunch of different materials, I was reminded that not requiring parking for ADUs is considered a best practice. So I just wanted to make sure that it's out there that we heard the comment, and think we're doing the right thing by keeping the no requirement for parking, off-street parking for ADUs.
Thanks, Lisa. Any other comments? Okay, let's move on to item 5. That's the revisions to the sign code, chapter 22 of the municipal code. Assume that's Mark.
Yeah, so this is new. We have not shared this with you since we adopted the code. We may have discussed this in passing last year, but this is, we've definitely addressed several sections or several features here that you haven't seen before. So the display of window signage is one. That's thank you, Dav. That's the 10 or see, is that one? That's the banners, right? So we are proposing getting rid of the maximum 25% maximum area coverage per window, and instead of giving a little more flexibility. We did have, this is based on an application we had gotten in the Parkwood Plaza Shopping Center. So this gives us a little bit more flexibility. That's why we're proposing that. The second one on the list here is banners. 9 square feet, I think, was a holdover from our old code. Frankly, so many banners are made that are up to 32 square feet and they seem to be well accepted in the community. I mean, I don't really get complaints about them. So we are proposing relaxing that standard. And that one, the election campaign. So this is, we obviously went through an election last fall. And in the course of answering a question, I came across the discovery that there was some, that our ordinance placed a limit on the display of yard signs that wasn't consistent with state law. So I proposed changing this. I worked with our city attorney and came up with this language. So basically, as soon as the election campaign period has started, people can display signs. And so we are simply reflecting state statute. The big change here is that the purple is actually Attorney Fleming's comments. The red is what I was proposing. The state law allows us to regulate signs over 11 square feet or 11 square feet or greater. We had been allowing signs up to 32 square feet. So I was proposing in exchange for being more lenient with the display of signs that we still cap the size of them. And this is for freestanding signs. I want to emphasize that this doesn't regulate building signs or on building signs. So that's the third one. And then the last one is has the most changes. So we have, in the interest of trying to streamline our processes, maintain our standards that we have in the community for aesthetics and safety, all that. At the same time, we've been trying to streamline our processes and provide greater ability to approve signs administratively, so we don't have to bring them all to the Plan Commission. So that's what some of these changes relate to. The other is the comprehensive sign plan. We used to have in the old sign code language of allowing a business essentially to have a PUD for signage, if you will. And the sign code was silent on how those were treated. So we are recommending language in several places, again, working with the city attorney to make sure we're dotting I's, crossing T's. And that's where that came from. So I don't think any of these, I think all these are pretty straightforward and hopefully don't require additional definitions.
Okay. Everybody okay with it? All right.
This is Lisa. I just wanted to mention for the commissioner's benefit that I had suggested taking out a couple sentences for consistency. Mark, could you scroll back up to that section that you were
Yep.
just meant? Yeah.
With all the text. Yeah, Alder Hanero had a good suggestion, and I had actually considered doing this. And I think so under number 2 and number 3, the last sentence where it said, if neither the GDP or SIP address an aspect of the sign design or placement, then the Plan Commission review shall be required. And then similarly, number 3, there's similar language. Well, the text at the beginning, right, preceding number 1 actually has that language already. Essentially, I was just reinforcing it, but Alder Hanero suggested removing those sentences, and that can be easily done following the hearing.
Yeah, it just seems like unnecessary wording. And if it is deemed to be necessary for paragraphs 2 and 3, it should also appear in 1. And then if it's going to appear in all, we might as well just stick with the language that's at the beginning saying, you know, it's only when any of the following conditions are met that the Plan Commission doesn't have to approve. That's already stated. So I say it again.
It was a good suggestion, so I've already changed it in the working draft, and so that we're all ready to go with that. And
Okay.
so what I would add is that since this is the first time, you'll have this at a public hearing at the next meeting, just like the zoning ordinance. However, this is the first public hearing and hopefully the only one. So the Planning Commission's policy that we've been working with the last few meetings now is that when there's a public hearing, there's generally a preference not to take action on the first public hearing. So I don't anticipate really, I don't know what kind of public input we'll have that, we'll see. But there isn't necessarily the expectation that you act on this at the next meeting. With the zoning ordinance, that's the second public hearing. And so you'll have the option if you wish to proceed, but if you have other questions and want other changes, that can be postponed too. But with that one, it's the second public hearing is essentially responding to the changes made from the first one. So I'm just trying to articulate your,
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
There's no action necessary.
Right, for
Until
either
after
of
the May
these.
27th meeting.
right.
Okay, let's move on to item 6 is the 5-year street improvement plan from Public Works.
This has been referred to several committees, well, specifically the Ped Bike Transit Committee and the Planning Commission from the Public Works Committee. The thanks to David Shaw for noticing we were missing a year, so we updated the file. So we're basically, this is your annual opportunity to provide feedback. I assume Alder Hanairo will make a comment, so I'll wait for her to make the comment and then I can respond to her idea. But I guess I don't really have anything to add at this point.
Okay, you're on, Lisa.
Oh, I guess I'm on. Well, I had a few comments. One, I saw in the, and we don't have Sean Olsrud on, correct? Okay. I saw that reference is made to having to revise things in order to come in within the target. I think we've had a $2 million target for public works capital projects for a while, and that probably should be increased as council is increasing the amount that we are willing to borrow each year. So that's something to keep in mind. And I actually would welcome the Public Works Committee giving us a proposal next year for what they feel needs to be done and let council decide where to cut the funding off. I did have questions about High Road because I know council funded the design, $120,000 for design of High Road this year with reconstruction to take place next year. So I'm a little concerned, although I think I understand why High Road may have been bumped a year given all the changes in public works. And then finally, the Century Avenue Road Diet Study also received $40,000 or council included it in the approved budget for this year with $40,000 for doing that road diet study. That falls under planning in the budget, but I'm wondering if that should or could be included in the 5-year plan. I guess it's through this year though. So maybe it doesn't need to be included, but I don't that shows up on a public works document. We should probably make that happen.
So regarding your last comment, Alder Hanairo, the Century Avenue Road Diet, as you noted, that was actually capital request PL 2506, $40,000 for design. There was no construction component to that. And this listing is supposed to indicate the year of construction. So I think that's, are you asking for this to be reflected, that the study to be reflected in the listing?
I would like it to be mentioned in the listing or in the appropriate year. So next year, or I'm sorry, 27, it shows Century Avenue is going to be reconstructed from Branch Street to Century Avenue, which is kind of confusing. I guess that's just the bridge.
I had not
And-
actually noticed that. I think that's just that is just a reference to the bridge. I don't know why the two.
Yeah. And then it shows in 29, we do the Century Avenue, Parmenter Street to, and it doesn't say, it just says see other see comments. And I was hoping it to see based on the Century Avenue Road Diet Study, but it's not in there. It just says what the total project cost is. And actually it just says resurfacing and maybe we need more work done. So I guess maybe we need to just ask for clarification or flag the Century Avenue work as something that should be tied to whatever we find in, or at least it shouldn't not reference the fact that we hope to do a road diet study this year for Century Avenue. If that makes sense.
Yep, it does. I like those suggestions. We also are getting immersed now in our active transportation plan, and that will touch on this as well. Obviously, the specific study funded by the council will be where the details are fleshed out. So I think that's good feedback we can take to our public works staff. Hopefully, the intent was to take this to council next week, right?
Yes.
I'll reach out to Sean Olsrud tomorrow about any changes to this, specifically 2029, to reference, to improve the geographic limits of these projects for both 27 and 29, and to reference the study. What was your comment about High Road? I didn't fully understand where that, if you were requesting a change.
I was just requesting confirmation or clarification, and I can ask for it at the council meeting, because High Road is supposed to have its design work done this year and then reconstruction next year. That's in the capital budget request for this year, is the $120,000 for design work. And it's possible that with Sean's departure and just so many changes in public works that this is going to be postponed, and I understand that. I just wanted to get confirmation of that, but I can get that next week.
Okay. You good, Mark?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
So there's nothing for us to do unless there's any other feedback?
I will simply, if I may take the opportunity, since it came up, the road diet concept is something we've talked about now for a few years in this department. And I'm hopeful that that would lead to a safe bicycle accommodation west of Branch Street. So a road diet, in theory, would take 4 lanes and convert it to a 2-lane, 1 lane in each direction with a 2-way left turn lane in the middle, kind of like Gammon Road. The question is there too much traffic on Century to enable that to happen? So that's what the study will do. But if we can narrow the road like that, then it would be nice to extend that path west of, that comes out now, the North Mendota path ends at University Avenue. At Branch and Century. It'd be nice to extend that west all the way to Parmenter Street on one side of the road. That would be ideal, or bike lanes, one or the other.
Okay. Any other comments? That's it then until this comes up again, right?
Yes. Well, it goes to plank, or to the council next.
Right. Okay, that takes us to appointments. Item 7 is the appointment to Workforce Housing Committee. I see Randy, you're currently serving on that,
Correct.
and do you want to continue?
I will continue, sure.
Do we need a motion on that?
Yep.
We need a nomination or just a vote?
You will need to make a motion to nominate a person and then take a vote.
I move to nominate Randy Bruce to be the liaison to appointment Workforce Housing Committee.
This is Lisa. I'll second that.
Do we
Is
need
it
second?
a motion to appoint, which I think is sufficient, or is it
Yeah,
a
we don't need a
nomination?
second on that, I don't think, right?
Well,
A
I'm just
nomination.
seeking clarification. Is it just a motion to appoint, or is it a motion to nominate, and then you're asking for nominations? That I don't think that would be. Abby, I'm just wondering, are you okay if it's an appointment?
That's what I thought he
Oh,
said.
okay. Well, I heard
So-
it now. Okay, so the motion is to appoint
Randy Bruce.
Randy Bruce, and that was by David?
David, seconded by Lisa.
Yep, okay.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Randy, for stepping up. All right, item 8 is the appointment to the Middleton Westport Zoning Committee.
And for this agenda item, I realized that this is actually a mayoral appointment, with the council confirming the appointment. So I need to discuss that with Mayor Kuhn to get an appointment made.
Okay, so we'll pass on that. Item 9 is the appointment of a second vice chair for the Plan Commission. In case I or Lisa aren't here.
Which will be the case at your very next meeting
Oh,
on May 27th, which is why it's on this agenda.
so who wants to be vice chair?
Second.
Second vice chair.
Second vice chair. Well, I was going to move that we appoint Commissioner Paulson because he's missing, but I don't know if he's going to be there next week. So I think we should make sure whoever is appointed second vice chair is planning to be at the meeting next time in 2 weeks.
That's a good point.
Commissioner Bruce, are you going to be at the meeting in 2 weeks?
Let me,
Or ho- yeah,
Don't you want the title of vice chair in your?
Second
resume?
vice chair.
Second vice chair. I keep second vice chair. Thank you.
I should be here.
all right,
I
then I
think-
I move.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm not super comfortable taking that role.
Okay.
If Kurt was available, I think he'd do a great job. But since we don't know, I don't know what
Kind
to
of
do
fun.
about that.
Kind of fun to appoint somebody when they're
Yeah.
not here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Especially someone like Kurt.
That's
Yeah,
usually when you
exactly.
appoint
Yes.
them.
He hasn't told me that he wouldn't be there, and he usually does let me know in advance, so I'm assuming he's gonna be here, but I did send him a text and he hasn't responded just yet.
So do we need a third vice chair then too?
Well, hopefully he will be at that meeting anyway, because we're holding 2 public hearings and we want to make sure that we have a quorum physically
yeah.
present, so.
Is it possible?
All right, then I will, given the discussion, I'll move to appoint Commissioner Kurt Paulson as the second vice chair of the Plan Commission.
Very good.
Okay,
I'll second that.
it's been moved and seconded for Paulson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi,
Opposed? Motion carries.
What you get when you're not here.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's what happens. Since we are at the end of the agenda, I will adjourn and see you all next time.
Thank you.
thank you.
Really,
Thank you.
not me.
Not you.
Texted back, he'll be there.
Good.
We're good.
Give the good news.
Is that the whole reason for the second chair next week?
In 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He'll be gone and
Yeah.
Paniro will also be
Right.
gone.